Good morning. It is 7:52 a.m. and I'm running late on Wednesday, April 20th, 2022. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. Actually been kind of poking around, like wasting time a little bit this morning. Even though I need to get ready, I'm going into the office today. um, that that facial expression and sigh was not about going into the office, but rather my own wasting of my time when I have something to do. That's how it goes sometimes. So, brief Elden Ring update. Only just to address that I have now reached and made a couple of first attempts at a boss character named Millennia. I think so. I keep losing track of the actual spelling there, but uh, widely considered to be the most difficult boss in that game. And so certainly I gave it a couple of tries, and after a couple of attempts, she goes down, and I'm like, oh, I did it! And then it's like, oh, of course, there's a phase two. So I did get treated to a very cool little cutscene where she did the equivalent of, this is not even my final form. Um, so yeah, certainly, so far, seems to be as difficult as advertised, although, I have plenty more tricks to potentially try, not to mention just learning her moveset more and trying to get better at that fight. But I also rewatched Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, Episode 9. Now, this was the first Star Wars movie in a long time where I saw it once in the theater and then just kind of not anymore after that. Even like the prequels back when they were new, I watched them a couple of times each in the theaters. Um, certainly episode 7 and 8 I saw a couple of times each, but then 9 I had some real problems with 9, and I finally rewatched it, in part because I have the once I finish Elden Ring, Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga is on my horizon there, because I really enjoy those Lego games, and this one's doing some new and interesting things. And I was just, I knew that it did all 9 movies, and I was just thinking, I just have that episode 9 that's lingering out there that I haven't revisited because I have strong feelings about it. And I'm glad that I finally did rewatch it, because the things that I think are just profound mistakes about the storytelling in that movie that just make me disappointed and angry and frustrated, they're still there. I haven't changed my mind about any of those things. My very short version of what I think happened there is, first of all, it's just still virtually inconceivable that a company as big as Disney really did decide to move forward into this sequel trilogy without actually having in mind where the story was going to go. Like, why would you do that? You are absolutely 100% deliberately planning a trilogy, but you don't actually map out the story for all 3 movies first? And then have different people do each one? Again, without having... It's bizarre, is what it is. But in any case, yeah, so the things that I think are... I honestly, in some respects, think that there are bigger storytelling blunders in Episode 9 than in any other Star Wars movie, including the prequels. They just really fumble the ball in a couple of really meaningful ways, and that's a bummer. However, I'm glad I rewatched it because knowing those things about it and trying to at least come to a degree of peace and acceptance about those lets me actually see some of the things that are okay about it, some of the things that do work, the couple of fleeting moments where it's actually great for a few minutes before kind of descending again. And, I still think that it is a profoundly flawed film, and it's disappointing as the capstone to the whole saga. I'm glad at least that it doesn't now still feel like this lingering open wound out there, hanging out there, and it's just kind of like, yes. To quote Stanley, the little kid from Magnolia, this is something that happens. Um, you know, you have a series that you really like, and then they just really fumble it sometimes. It just, I to be a fly on the wall. Now, I'm sure that there's a handful of things that I'm sure really profoundly impacted a lot of that. I mean, obviously, one is, they originally had planned for Colin Trevorrow to do it, and he had his own script, and that's, like, I haven't read his script. I know some people have seen it, and that sounds like it had some real problems of its own, but in different ways. The production was also obviously really profoundly impacted by the loss of Carrie Fisher before filming. So, there was, I think, an intent generally thematically to have the final movie sort of kind of focus on her, except that they really couldn't because Carrie Fisher died, unfortunately. And I think effects-wise, they did okay in terms of using some old footage of her a little bit, but just they were really unable to tell the kind of story that I'm sure they would have wanted to. Now, it may have still been bad in lots of other ways. But then, like deciding that they didn't like Colin Trevorrow's version and giving it back to J.J. Abrams, who, I mean, he made Force Awakens, which I liked quite a bit, even though mostly what it was doing was just echoing A New Hope. But I think, oh well, I could go on and on about this, but what I actually need to do is go to work. So I'm going to leave it there and just say I'm glad I finally rewatched it. I feel like I've been able to, I'd say close a book, except I still like Star Wars. I still am interested in Star Wars. But I guess I don't think the movie got any better, but it doesn't hurt so much. Anyway, I'll leave it there, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes.